because if you wear your shoes for too long, I guess it's a good breeding ground for like fungus or whatever.
Fuck yeah. No, I knew someone in Lawrence, Kansas that got like fucking jungle rot. Like seriously, just a crust punk that just didn't change his fucking shoes.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah, so we were at the Haunted Kitchen, like on Louisiana Street, Lawrence, Kansas. The Haunted Kitchen.
Is that the name of the actual name of the place?
Yeah, it was a punk house. It was like 2-3-story punk house. They had like fucking shows like in the basement. They would like dumpster dive like a bunch of shit and cook giant meals in the kitchen area. A bunch of people that I used to know from Oklahoma City had moved up there. And my old roommate, Nikki the cat, I had sent up there. I sent him with a little handwritten note to like my friends that live. This is like back in the days before the widespread internet. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is Nikki the cat. Please take care of him. Thanks. And they're like, oh, okay, cool.
And the house was just called the Haunted Kitchen.
Yeah.
Kind of like this place is called the Crypt.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, and like I used to live at Pone House, and then like my brother lived at Skull House.
Yeah.
So we just had all these different punk house names. But yep, that one was the Haunted Kitchen. But my old band played a show, and we were staying at the Haunted Kitchen, and there was this dude that, used to wander around with his dog. I actually think he still lives in Kansas.
His dong?
No, dog.
Oh.
Anyway, he was one of those guys that had some really bad, foot fungus kind of shit going on. And at this point in time, he had been taking his shoes off, but he just, there was a point in time he just never changed his socks.
What happens is, what you're supposed to do to encourage good foot health is if you ever see anybody pass out with their shoes on, you're supposed to draw all over their face or arms or whatever exposed skin they have, because we did this to my friend Marcella, the drag queen's like side piece that she had for a while. I can't remember what his name was, but it was like really fucking Italian, like fucking Paulie Pizzarelli or some shit. But we were partying one night and he passed out on my couch, so we just drew like dicks all over his face and fucking colored in one of his arms with Sharpie and...
Oh, we were much more ruthless than that where I come from.
Oh, yeah?
We were way more ruthless. So, okay, so of course, we would like delegate plots of the passed out body, like a feudal lord, and, you get the arm, I get the leg, so there'd be like this huge collaborative art piece before the night was over. But they had to pass out with their shoes on, because if they were acting like a jackass or an asshole or tried to start a fight, or if they broke something like that and they passed out with their shoes on, it got bad. So there's all kinds of fun shit you could do, like the shit mitt.
Oh.
The shit mitt.
Oh, God.
So
I want to know?
You go find some dog poop outside, and you put it in their hand, and then you just wrap up their hand with duct tape. But you don't just stop at just wrapping up the poop in their hand with duct tape. You keep wrapping up their hand until they're wearing like a fucking mighty mitt. And so they wake up in the morning like, ha ha, real funny, guys, trying to take off this huge fucking...
Trying to unroll it.
Yeah, but by the time they start getting to the core where their hand is, they're starting to realize, oh my God, there's poop in there.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's a couple people got shit mitted at my house.
Oh my God.
And then, or if you shave off just one eyebrow. Just one. Not both eyebrows. You shave off one eyebrow, then are forced to make a decision. It's like, do I just fucking, shave off both eyebrows and start anew like the fucking Terminator?
That's what I would do.
Yeah. Or do you just fly one brow and have this lopsided look that you will never recover from? Like,
really?
Yeah. I've seen some people sport the lopsided look, and some people go fucking full Terminator and just nuke their eyebrows. But okay, that one wasn't the worst. Okay, first there was this dude, and he was like the bully. He was like the Debo of this like shitty town in Kansas I used to live in. And he was like the type of guy that would beat up your dad. It's like, oh man, this guy was picking on me. And your dad's like, what? And he'd go outside and try to talk shit to that dude. But that dude would beat the shit out of your dad. Like, no shit.
What the fuck?
He didn't beat the shit out of my dad. He was scared of my dad because he heard my dad say, well, bring his big ass on. I'll just shoot him. But he had beaten up a couple of people's dads on my street. Like, he was just that fucking ruthless.
Oh, my God.
And then I told you about the time he was trying to get me to fucking ride on, like, that little rocking toy after the fucking ice storm. Uh-huh. And he was like, I only go 5 miles an hour. So I pretended to, sit on it.
Oh, where he had, like, tied it to his car
Yeah, to the back of his Bronco and fucking just, like, sped going 50 and hit a telephone pole,
Oh, God.
Yeah, fuck that. But anyway, so this guy was, like, the hugest bully. He was, like, the hugest dick. And we were partying at like my friend's girlfriend's older sister's house. And
your neighbor's dog's chiropractor's
I'm trying to
house.
avoid names. But no, anyway, so she was watching this house. Someone had puked in the fish tank, and so there was some dead fish in there. It was really sad. I know. They were like these little goldfish. And so whenever that bully dude came over and wanted to get drunk, he got all passed out, we couldn't just let him get away with the shit that he had gotten away with. So we were like, ho, 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 ho.
You got French about it.
Yeah, we got the goldfish and put it over his eyes, and then wrapped up his head in duct tape, and then just kept wrapping up his head in duct tape until he was he had like double pink eye for like 2 weeks.
What the fuck?
Fuck that guy. That guy was a piece of shit. Like the worst guy. You should see his prison rap sheet. It's fucking disgusting. He's such a bad
believe
person.
you, but those were like puke fish.
Yeah.
And like,
on his eyes.
I don't even want to think about the kind of pink eye you would get from that shit.
Yeah, fuck that fucking
God, well maybe he shouldn't have been beating up everybody's dads.
dude. He was just that fucking horrible. But yeah, I think that's the one that took the cake. The shit mitt. But the goldfish duct tape turban was the absolute worst.
Man, Polly Pizzarelli just didn't know how lucky he was.
Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx. Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx. Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx. Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx.
Greetings, puny earthlings. I am your new cyborg overlord from beyond the stars. Lesser beings who lack the cognition to fathom my magnificence refer to me as Sabrina.
I am designated as the Murdertron anti-terrestrial terror bot, but you can call me Matt.
And this
is Sumo Punx.
my neck, my back, my hydraulic pussy and catalytic crack.
Jesus Christ. Okay. God damn it.
Fuck. We got to do this episode. Stop laughing.
Okay.
Oh yeah, baby.
God damn it. Okay, we can do this. We are functioning adults. I swear.
Spank me.
God damn it.
Fuck. Okay, no, this is a long ass episode. We really got to get through this. First, though, we do have a few little tidbits that we want to talk about. Starting off, there was the All-American Sumo Classic that happened this past weekend. And
Atlantic City, New Jersey.
yeah, and a bunch of people that we know and love had ended up winning medals at that.
Yeah. So this was at the Mr. America Sports Festival. The All-American Sumo Classic was a elite event full of athletes that were kind of the cream of the crop of the amateur sumo world in the U.S. So without further ado, the champion of the whole shebang is the only sumo wrestler in Alabama, Andrew Roden. Woo!
We should write a song about that guy.
Yeah, totally.
The only sumo wrestler in Alabama.
That's like definite song fodder.
Yeah, that's like some fucking death metal shit.
Yeah. All right, and then we have from Raijin Sumo in North Carolina, Erobor Konyeha got the silver medal.
Yeah, that
And
dude's
then-
a fucking beast.
Oh, fuck yeah. What I saw on the old Instagram today is that dude is actually trying to go pro, trying to go
Oh my God.
in the Japanese world of sumo. So fuck yeah. Good luck to you, bud. We believe in you. You got this shit.
God, I'd love to see that.
Hell
All right,
yeah.
who won the bronze?
The bronze was won by Zachary Johnson Aaron Dunlop. And I don't know this guy personally. He looks like a fucking tank. Word round the campfire is that Sumo Dan is going to have a fully edited video of the whole event sometime soon. It was being live streamed, but the live stream did disappear. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet. I saw bits and pieces. We were interviewing Richard Neal, actually this interview, at the time that it was happening. So
at the exact same time. And speaking of the good Sir Richard Neal, the next upcoming event in the world of amateur sumo is the Sumo Boot Camp, taught by the man himself, Richard Neal of the Swiss Sumo Society, on October 15th. That's going to also apparently be hosted by the Midwest Martial Arts Group. This is going to be in Davenport, Iowa. And we'll have more to say about Richard Neal and his whole shindig in a minute, but we do also want to tell you about some of the other upcoming events.
October 21st, the University of Texas Arlington's Japanese Cultural Society is going to be having an event where the Dallas Sumo Club is going to be doing a demo. This is going to be from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Keep an eye on the Dallas Sumo Club Instagram and or Twitter for more information as that starts to approach us.
Then on November 5th is the Swiss Sumo Open International Tournament. This is also organized by Richard Neal, and there are a lot of U.S. amateur sumo wrestlers that are going to be going out there.
Oh yeah, I've heard of a few people. There's a roster that's supposed to be in the works, but we won't find out who's actually going to be competitors until everyone's visas goes through. So we'll have more information about that as that approaches. And then on November 5th and 6th, the Fort Worth Fall Festival. The Fort Worth Fall Festival is at the Fort Worth Botanical Gardens, and Dallas Sumo Club will be hanging out doing sumo stuff all day and then doing a demo on the main stage at 3 p.m. So far, I don't know if this is going to be both days or just one day. So again, keep an eye on Dallas Sumo Club.
Just show up to both days.
Yeah, keep an eye on the Instagram and Twitter for Dallas Sumo Club.
Then on November 12th, we have the Houston Sumo Open! That's hosted by Shogeki Sumo Club at the Tokyo Night Festival. November 12th, Lucky Land, Houston, Texas. Be there or be...
terminated.
Yeah! What he said.
All right.
God, now there's going to be more than one Terminator reference in this episode.
I can't help it. I'm from the 80s.
It's okay. So Matt's going to be competing in that tournament. I'm going to be helping man the media booth. Nicholas Tond reached out to me to tell me that I'm getting a media badge. So that's going to make me feel very fancy.
All right. So those are events. If you have other events that you would like to let us know about, you can always send us an email, sumopunx@gmail.com, or send them to us on Twitter or Instagram, any of that sort of thing.
The face butts.
The face butts. But yes, if you want us to shout out your event from the mountaintops, send it our way and we will do so.
So about that Sumo Boot Camp that Richard Neal is doing, we actually mentioned this in the last episode, and I went on this tangent where I was naming other people in the U.S. who have tons and tons of experience that you could learn sumo from, and I think in my mind, I was mostly thinking of like ex-pro rikishi, you know? But then I was reminded that I had completely forgotten there's actually a guy here in Texas who is just a total wealth of knowledge. He actually wrote the book on amateur sumo, which is called Sumo Skills Instructional Guide for Competitive Sumo. His name is Tom Zabel. You can catch him at Mighty Eagle Sumo Club down in San Antonio, Texas, if you're ever in the area and you want some expertise bestowed upon you.
And we're talking like decades of expertise.
Yes.
He's been involved in sumo for over 30 years.
Yes. So, very sorry, Tom. Didn't mean to forget about you there. Making podcasts is hard. But, you know, speaking of people who do have a wealth of knowledge, this episode is about Richard Neal of the Swiss Sumo Society. We got to sit down with him and Holy shit, it must have been like 2.5 hours
It
we were
was 2.5
talking to this guy. And we talked about everything. We talked about the history of sumo, the present of sumo, the future of sumo, the difference between American sumo and European sumo. We talked about the horrors of travel by airplane. We talked about labor rights. We
God
talked
damn
about
it.
so many different things. It was really hard to squeeze it all into one episode. So this is going to be a long one, but we really do hope you enjoy it.
And he was really freaking cool to talk to. Just awesome guy. So if you have the chance to go catch up with the Sumo Boot Camp, or if you're lucky enough to get a visa to go compete in the Swiss Sumo Open, do so, because he is just such a cool guy. I love
Or
this dude.
even go to Switzerland to watch the Swiss Sumo Open.
Hell yeah.
I would totally do that.
Man, if I had the money and a passport, I would already be booked.
Same. Well, without further ado, here is our interview with Richard Neal of the Swiss Sumo Society. Enjoy.
All right, so we have Mr. Richard Neal from the Swiss Sumo Society. One of the nicest human beings that I have ever met in my entire life. Whenever Sabrina was going through her surgery and I was kind of freaking out about everything, he just messaged me out of the blue, just added me on Facebook and then talked me down. So thank you for helping me stay sane, but I do apologize you've met me in such a harried situation. So.
No, that's okay. I don't mind doing that. It's sort of something I do regularly on Facebook, is when I see people sort of going through sort of stress issues or anxiety issues, I like to contact them and have a chat and say, well, it's not that bad.
You were right. It really wasn't that bad, but I
kept telling him that, but he didn't want to listen to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking of Facebook, I did see on your Facebook recently that you are in the U.S. and you had some issues with your air travel, and you got to see your first authentic American Karen.
Oh no!
Oh yes. My first authentic American Karen. It was absolutely crazy. When we were at time of recording here, I am actually in the States for about 10 days, and I was doing a sort of a 3-leg flight to get here because I'm in Iowa, and I was flying Geneva, Switzerland to London Heathrow, and then from Heathrow to Dallas, and then from Dallas up to Quad Cities in Iowa, Illinois border. And the plane from London got in over 3 hours late.
Oh.
Yeah. And so physically, I got off the plane from London 11 minutes before my plane to Iowa left.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And there was no way I was running through Dallas Airport with immigration and passport control and customs and baggage collection, etc., etc. And obviously, it's not one of the most sort of sought after destinations, so there's only 2 flights a day, and so I had to stay a night in Dallas. The plane from London was a Airbus 380, which is sort of a double-decker airplane. It's literally 2 planes stuck on top of each other. And so when we got to the American Airlines counter, there were about 300 people wanting alternate tickets because they were staying flights, and among them there was this lady who I would say was about 50, and she was a Karen.
Oh, no.
I've seen Karens on Facebook and I've seen Karens on YouTube, and they just make me laugh. And this woman was sort of fuming in sort of mumbling with other people that were near her in the line. She was in front of me in the line, so we could all see her. And sort of the instant it was her turn and she got to the desk, she sort of shouting at this poor woman behind the desk.
You just exploded?
Oh yeah, she just exploded. What's happened? This is your fault. I mean, this poor woman behind the desk who had probably never moved out of Dallas all day. It was her fault that the plane had left 3 hours late in London, sort of.
Oh, it's like,
And she
but I was here the whole
shouting.
time.
Yeah,
That's
you're
like good
getting
old-fashioned American entitlement.
Yeah, absolutely. this poor woman said, well, I can give you a flight for tomorrow. I don't want a flight for tomorrow. I want to go now. Sort of.
Oh, God.
You pull that plane out of the air and make it come and get me.
Yeah, so they get it to come back. I mean, yeah. She ended up, I mean, obviously she had printed out tickets and stuff, and she ended up throwing this bundle of tickets at the woman.
Oh my God.
I mean, personally, I don't understand what that solved or helped, except maybe calm her anxiety crisis, but it didn't.
No.
And then she must have pushed some hidden button under the desk.
Yeah.
Suddenly, out of nowhere, there were sort of 3 Arnold Schwarzeneggers in black uniforms appeared out of nowhere. It came into existence behind the desk.
Just materialized.
Yeah, and just sort of lifted her up and carried her off.
Just did like the Terminator thing, you know, when he like transports into the past and he's all naked and he's kneeling and then he stands up real slow.
Yeah, those balls just kind of appeared in the airport, and then you hear
Yeah. Fortunately for us, they were already clothed. They weren't naked. So that was.
Oh my God.
Oh man, it kind of gives you a feeling where
they
like
just we never saw her again. So where she went, God only knows. I mean,
yeah, they took her back to the future.
yeah. That was my first encounter with a real Karen, real life Karen. I must say, when I've seen them on video, I don't know how the people opposite them keep their calm. I mean, with all the sort of gunslinging reputation that you Americans have, I'm surprised there's not sort of one Karen sort of starts starting at a guy, and the guy just sort of pulls his coat out and downs it.
I mean, it does happen sometimes.
The Wild West.
But I mean, sort of, yeah, it does happen, but it's sort of more like they'll get a Coke in the face in the McDonald's or something like that. And I mean...
Yeah, no, it's more likely to end up on the evening news than end up on YouTube if there's actually like violence happening.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, but then they go into tantrums, sort of. There's one I saw that's really funny. I think it was an old lady with a dog, and she was shouting at this guy, and this guy was in his pathway in front of his house, and she comes at him for no idea what reason, and he just sort of pushes her away, and she walks away and lies down in the street and starts yelling, "Oh, I'm dying, I'm dying."
Yeah, I remember that one.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But I mean, it's sort of a delayed reaction time.
And she probably thought, well, you know, it would be a really good idea if I just flop in the street.
Let me just try to make this guy look really bad, even though I came up to him on his property.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's great. I mean, you don't get them in Europe. They don't exist.
That's wild. Just an American phenomenon.
I mean, I've heard stories of people that are sort of acted entitled. But they would get slapped around the head. In Germany, no, seriously, I've heard a witness of this. A woman sort of being a Karen in a shop.
In Germany?
The woman behind the counter just slapped her. And that was it.
You know, it's probably because the prevalence of guns in the U.S. that people don't do that. Because they don't know if this person that's freaking out in front of them is carrying a gun or some other sort of weapon and will just literally murder them.
Yeah.
Because they defend themselves against their tantrum.
Especially in Texas.
That
could get a little wild.
But even though I would love to sit here and keep talking about how badly Americans behave with you, we do have to talk about sumo.
Okay, let's get back on the subject.
So, what was it that originally got you into sumo? What got you interested in it? And then, I guess, eventually practicing it yourself?
Now, this might sound a strange answer. The thing that got me into sumo was French President Jacques Chirac.
Oh, really?
Yes. Before I started sumo and sort of when in my teenage and early 20s, I used to be an ice hockey goalie.
Ooh,
oh, nice.
I've always been sort of a big sort of square guy. Okay, like my rough and tumble, like to get in there and give an elbow or so. Pretty sporty. And On the side of that, I've always, since I was a little kid, been interested in traditional Japanese traditions
Yeah.
and sort of samurai and the shogunate. I mean, basically sort of reading up on, in general, on Japanese culture and sumo being among it, but sort of not being the big one. I was more sort of a samurai and sort of nunchakus and
Every
big
kid in the
sabers.
US plays ninjas, so I
Yeah,
completely
exactly.
understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I was always into this. And anyway, Jacques Chirac became president of France in 1995, and he was absolutely crazy about sumo. And he got the TV channel in Europe called Eurosport, which is sort of a European Union sports program that shows all the sports, and you can get commentary in about a dozen languages.
Ooh, nice.
And it's run from France, and he got that TV channel to show the bashos every 2 months.
Awesome.
What they did is, obviously you got a 15-day basho, so they condensed it, and you had 5 1-hour shows, and each show would be sort of a resume of 3 days basho, and it would come out the week after the end of the basho. And obviously every 2 months I was spending a week sort of staying up late watching sumo. And this was, wow, this is great. This is cool. I could do this, sort of not even knowing that it existed on an amateur level, not even knowing that there was a Swiss Sumo Society. So I watched avidly for years this sumo. And then in 2002, there was the European Championships in Germany. And one of the guys from the only club in Switzerland, which is in Geneva, won a bronze medal at the Europeans.
Awesome.
And there was a sort of page article, interview type stuff in the local papers. And I sort of, wow, sumo in Switzerland. Okay. And at the end of the article, it was, if you're interested, call this number and come down and try it. So obviously I called, and the next day I was in Geneva trying sumo.
Nice.
And I loved it. I mean, I was a big guy. I was already 150 kilos, which is
300 something, 370,
320 pounds. So I used to drive down twice a week for training, and that's how I started.
Nice. How old were you?
This will give my age away. 38 when I started.
Nice. That's like around the time that I started, because like I'm about to be 41.
Yeah.
But I was like 38 whenever I first started trying to get involved. I actually joined Dallas Sumo Club when I was 39. So
yeah.
But it's so much fun, and it's like I didn't know. Like I really wish I could have found it like earlier in life.
Oh yeah.
Because then I'd be all badass.
Yeah. Because I stayed with the club 4 years before starting my own club, because I live in the Lausanne area, which is about 40 miles away. And it happens to be the Olympic capital. That is, the International Olympic Committee has their headquarters there. So everything sporty in the world sort of revolves around my hometown. What happened in 2005, I'd gone to my first European Championships and got smashed by Hungarian. But I'd still gone on that year to do the World Championships in Osaka.
Oh, nice.
And at that time, the International Sumo Federation was starting to get interested to be recognized by the Olympic Committee. And they said, oh, you're from Lausanne. It would be good if, sort of a little hint, wink, wink, sort of, it would be good if you started a club in Lausanne.
So,
that makes sense. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that would be a little bit of an easier gateway to kind of get sumo into the Olympics eventually someday. That's still a conversation that's ongoing, as I understand it.
Yes and no. Yes, because officially, of course, the sumo is still not in the Olympics
Right.
as such. No, because now, in fact, sumo is an officially recognized sport by the International Olympic Committee.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why, in fact, sumo is now a part of the World Games.
Because it was recognized by the Olympic Committee.
Because the World Games is, in fact, the sort of second Olympic Games, if you like, And it's with all the sports that are officially recognized by the International Olympic Committee, but aren't in the Olympics.
Yeah, and that's kind of, and seeing some of those, like the dance sports, the roller sports, and
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff. I liked that stuff. I thought that was really cool, and like the
Yeah.
powerlifting and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
But
I mean, no,
that's sort of the Olympic Committee's sort of stock of sports. Or if they want to change stuff, I mean, that's where, I mean, you had the new sports at the last Olympics, sort of like skateboarding
yeah.
and rock climbing.
And
They came from there.
Oh, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
They
and
were
that's what-
they were in the World Games, and then they got sort of pushed up to the Olympics.
They got leveled up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
So
too, is
what we're
sometimes-
praying for now is that sumo gets leveled up. There are some criteria that are sort of very difficult to get at, because you have to have so many sort of national sport federations in so many continents, and you have to have, I think 2/3 of those have to have a female section,
Yep.
that sort of thing. And they go on popularity and stuff like that as well.
See, that's part of the reason why I decided to officially join the Dallas Sumo Club, because I had really started to want to do something about there not being that many women in sumo, and especially when I heard that the number of female sumo wrestlers, amateur sumo wrestlers, was one of the things that was hindering sumo from getting to the Olympics. I was like, well, I mean, I can help out with this. I don't know if I'm going to be any good at it, but why not give it a try? And then immediately my gallbladder went to shit, so...
Yeah. Well, you'll see they'll give the official announcement sort of in 2024 in Paris. Well, thank you. Now sumo has become an official sport because of Sabrina from Dallas who joined.
Yay, Sabrina!
So, one of the things that you had told us about before we started recording was, I guess in European sumo now, there is a requirement that anyone under the age of 16 does have to wear shorts under their mawashi. That brings up a question that I wanted to see what your views are on the difference between European amateur sumo and U.S. amateur sumo.
There are,
Or the similarities.
Yeah.
where do I start? I mean, there's so much that's really different from what I see. I would say first major difference I see is, where are your women?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Second, big question is, where are your kids?
Exactly.
Yep, and that's something we've been trying to work on here in the Texas Ichiman. We had the Consulates Cup recently, and we did actually have a children's competition,
Yeah.
which is the first one I've ever seen in the U.S. But yeah, you're absolutely right on that.
Especially like with the kids. I mean, that's like, because I saw the European like youth sumo championships on YouTube, and man, those kids, they're like, 13, 14. Those kids are mean. and it's like, even and the little girls too. Those little girls are mean as hell too. They're just oof.
They're little badasses.
And so I'm like, this is what we need in the U.S. It's like, I want to see kids, but a lot of the times, like sports are so wrapped up in like school that it's sometimes hard for kids to like say, well, I want to do a sport, but I want to do a sport that's not involved in school. So it kind of takes the realm of like, like martial arts, like, oh, I want to do karate, or I want to do. So I think it's because it's not a school sponsored activity that a lot of people kind of may view it to be inaccessible. But since sumo's growing so much in the U.S., I'm really hoping. And there's another guy, was it Nate Hudson from Tennessee Sumo? Like, he's got a high school sumo club, so I could feel the rumblings.
Yeah. I mean, I just looked up because I received the info the other day. There is one sumo tournament in Europe that takes place every January in a town near Budapest, Hungary. That is the only tournament where they have all the categories that exist in one day, working on 3 dojos parallel.
Oh, wow.
That is.
And they have what is called School Children 2, which are 7 and 8-year-olds. They don't take under 7, but they are 7 or 8-year-olds. And the lightweight girls category is under 22 kilos. That's about 46 pounds.
Wow.
And I can tell you, I've seen those girls. I mean, they would look like sort of the kids that sell you sort of Girl Guide cookies at your doorstep, sort of.
Yeah.
Okay, your little blonde angel, sort of. Yeah, and they go at that as though their life depends on it.
They do.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier before the show about sort of emotion on the dojo, and if they lose, they will start crying.
Oh.
But then the coach will just go, and they will look at the coach and they sort of stifle up, sniff it back up, and and then the stoic, and then sort of do their ray and get out and. But I mean, that is one thing I notice a lot is the lack of women and children.
Yeah.
In American. Obviously, I would say American sumo, I would say, suffers from one thing that we don't have such a problem in Europe, and that is distance.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, if you take Swiss Sumo Society, all our clubs are within a 2-hour drive of each other.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we're a small country.
It's like Texas, because all the clubs here are within about a 2 or 3 hour drive of each other.
Yeah. Okay. Now that's okay, because obviously, if you're in Dallas club, you can go to Houston for the day and train with them and come back in the evening. You're okay. But you wouldn't go to LA, or you wouldn't go to New York, or you wouldn't go to Chicago for the day for a training session and then come back.
Exactly.
True.
And if you did, well, I suppose you could with the airplanes and stuff, but if you did, it would cost you the earth.
It would.
Yeah, and we definitely don't have the money for that. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't even have the money for like a paid copy of Zoom. So
Yeah, but I mean, I think that is one thing that goes against you, because the distances are limiting interaction. And it's the interaction that helps you learn more. Because if you're in one club, I mean, think of your club. You know how each person in your club fights after a time. You know that this guy is going to come in low, that guy is slow, that guy is crafty and will go more for the belt, that guy is more of a hitter or a pusher or whatever. And you know, you end up knowing how they work and how you have to react to them. And they do the same. They know how you work and how to react against you. And learning becomes difficult. I find with any martial art, even if it's just sort of friendly sparring, at some stage you're going to need sort of going up against a stranger.
Yeah. Need novelty.
Then not even just novelty, it's sort of the unknown. Sort of, okay, now I have no knowledge of what he does or she does, and I just have to go from there. And do what I know and hope for the best.
That's what I did at the Consulates Cup, and it kind of got me thinking that I need to get in more bouts with people that I've never fought before. I just have to stay on my toes.
yeah, because if the only time you ever see these people and get a chance to actually have matches with them is at tournaments, then I mean, you're not getting enough actual time with a lot of other people to get you to that next level in your sumo.
Yeah, I have noticed there are some folks around here that have been doing, like in Cincinnati, they had, it was Cornelius Booker and I think one of the Ohio sumo clubs did, they called it Sin City, but it was Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But the Sin City Sumo Camp where they all got together and then trained. So it was a whole bunch of people flying to meet in one spot. And I think that's cool. There was also...
That would be cool, sort of take a week and do sort of a week. Everybody flies in and does a week's intensive sumo.
Yeah.
But knowing that it is training and it's not competition.
And that's another thing.
And that at the end of the day, okay, you're not going to get a medal.
Yeah.
For what you do.
And another thing too, in the U.S. specifically, is that the way our employment is set up
Oh,
does
God,
not
yeah.
really give any room for extended periods of leave
Yeah.
without taking a huge chunk out of your paycheck. So yeah, it can be pretty difficult.
I really
Yeah.
wish that we just had the infrastructure, to just have these big camps.
Bullet trains, at least,
Oh, I know, right?
something
Yeah.
to where we can travel more easily.
There's a Soslan, I can't remember his last name, but he was in pro sumo as Wakanoho, and he's done like a couple of training camps, like as at his residence in Florida, and had a few
Yeah.
people. And then, of course, there's Yama out on the West Coast, and people
Yeah.
can go out there, but it's like,
Yeah, and there's the guy in Hawaii as well. What's his name?
Wayne Vieira. Yeah, he was in Makushita until he had to get a surgery, and then he had to drop out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, I really wish that we could have like, maybe just big training conferences, like a big organized, training conference.
Yeah.
That'd be really, really cool. So in like,
But I mean, Sabrina, you were talking about, okay, Americans have problems with holidays because you only get what, 2 or 3 weeks vacation, 2 weeks vacation?
if that.
Yeah, a lot of us don't
yeah.
get any.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, in Europe, we have 4 or 5 weeks.
I'm very envious of that.
But then I mean, we have a completely different world. I mean, we have things like healthcare.
Yeah, I'm envious of that as well.
And we are not socialists.
It's like,
That's something that the U.S. is like super afraid of, but doesn't seem to understand what it actually is.
That's the sort of last strands of McCarthyism and sort of death to the communists.
Yeah, exactly.
but if you press them on what that even means, they couldn't tell you.
Exactly. Well, what do you think that the U.S. could, I mean, you've already kind of given us some of your opinion on this, but what do you think that the U.S. could learn from European sumo?
I think another problem in American sumo is Americans and the way of the American life. Let me explain. In America, you do it if there's money in it.
Money is a big motivator in the U.S.
Yes,
That's true.
that you were talking earlier about, you probably not in the got the kids because it's not in the schools. But in the schools, what are the kids doing? They're trying to get scholarships, and then they're trying to become professionals.
Yeah.
And that's it. Sumo does not exist as a professional sport outside of Japan, and there are only a very, very limited number of non-Japanese or Mongolians who can get a place. I mean, officially there are 42 heya, and each heya is allowed two foreigners.
Yeah. Even with other martial arts in the U.S., that's not something like karate or like taekwondo or what have you. That's not something that they do in the schools here either. But they are more popular than sumo, and it seems like
but I mean, you could be, if you are a high-ranked judo wrestler, you could open your club.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna...
You could have kids come in, and they would pay you sort of $20, $30, $50 a month to learn judo off you. Now, okay, you've got the clubs, but who's the teacher? And is he making you pay $20, $30, $50 a month to learn? From what I know, there aren't.
For sumo?
For sumo.
Right.
Okay? Don't get me wrong. This is not a criticism, but I find in the American mentality, if you're not paying for it, you don't take it seriously.
I've kind of noticed there can be that kind of mentality. With Dallas Sumo Clubs, we started out free. Well, things changed, and it got to the point to where we did have to start, actually paying a whole lot of money for our facility. And then so we had to start charging like a monthly membership fee, but it's still really affordable. But, thinking about that, it really has kind of started helping the infrastructure of the club, and, it kind of like propped us up.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's unfortunate, but
But I mean,
sometimes...
even if it's something like just say $20 a month, which is sort of not the earth, it's going to be a psychological pusher, because you're saying, well, I'm paying $20 a month, so I want my money's worth.
Yeah.
Right. I think I see what you're saying. In the
You
US,
see what I mean? Whereas if you say it's free, so oh well, maybe this week I'm not going in. Who cares? It's free, so
yeah, there's not as much emphasis on just personal growth as personal growth in the US. It is very much tied to money and finance and income and what have you. You're right, it is a huge part of the culture. It kind of gets beaten into our heads since the time we're born that the only way you're going to make it in the world or be a successful human being is if you accumulate as much wealth as possible, which just isn't something that most of us will ever do,
Yeah.
whether we're Americans or Europeans or what have you.
exactly. To a certain degree, we understand the necessity of money. There are obviously certain Europeans, a certain class of Europeans who think, well, I need all the money I can get, sort of. I mean, obviously, I mean, we have our billionaires too, but I think, and maybe possibly this is very Swiss, because I mean, we are the richest country in the world. Okay, we've got your gold. Okay, but I think we've got to a point where a lot of folks are realizing that there's more to life than just having a big bank account.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something I wish that would be a perspective that more people in the US had, really, because you only get one life, you know? And if you're constantly using it, just grinding yourself down, working all the time, or just focusing on this really material aspect of that life, then by the end of it, you're not going to be fulfilled,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, I've read stories. I read a story last year. In Britain, there were a load of companies saying, well, look, if you take a 13% wage cut, we will offer you a 4-day working week. Now, a 4-day working week is 20% of your time off against 13%. So in fact, you're getting per hour more cash.
Yeah.
And you're only working 4 days a week. And so you have more time off to do other stuff.
But the
I'm
cost
for
of
this
living
4-day
stays
work
the
week.
same.
And they, after 6 months, they did a trial for this after 6 months. And after 6 months, I think it was sort of 97% of the people were in favor of continuing.
But the cost of living stays the same, though. So
Yeah.
essentially, what it sounds like is that extra time is more valuable than any of the material goods you could purchase with that 13% extra income.
It's not quite linear because that 13% cut meant that your taxes went down. So in fact, you were paying sort of less tax.
So you're in a lower tax bracket.
So it does
You're
kind
on a
of
lower
even out a
tax
little bit.
grading. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did this for 6 months, and the people were saying, yeah, we want to continue. We want to continue. We find this a good idea. Because as you said, they found that the extra free time to do stuff, be with family, be with friends, go out, see stuff, was more important than the amount of cash on their bank in their bank at the end of the month.
Yeah, it's more valuable. And that's something that we've talked about here and there in the US. Mostly it's seen as kind of a fringe idea, which I think it pretty much still is in Europe as well. But I mean, we had to fight really hard just to get an 8-hour workday in the early 20th century. And a lot of that's been rolled back now, too.
Yeah.
So,
In France, they had a general strike in 1936 that was demanding 4 weeks vacation.
I think I
4
read
weeks
about that.
paid vacation, and sort of the whole country went on strike and demanded 4 weeks paid vacation, and they got it.
Man, we need to do that.
I mean, I've been
I mean,
saying we should try our own general strike for a while.
they literally brought the country to a halt for about 6 weeks until the government said, well, okay, if you want it.
We got stuff we have to do, so just give them what they want.
But so whenever you first started kind of getting involved with European sumo, or not really when you first, but when you first started like creating your own sumo club,
2006.
So did you have like a lot of people that kind of had like some weird preconceived notions about sumo, or did you?
Oh yes.
What kind of experiences did you have with newbies?
Newbies. Well, we founded the club. There were 3 of us. We founded the club in January 2006. And we'd got a load of gear sort of free from the Japanese, because obviously the story about wanting to have a club in Lausanne for the Olympics. And so we've got a free plastic doyo, we've got free mawashi. Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
wish we could get a free doyo.
I know.
Yeah, I think the first thing, I got some friends, kids, to come in and try. Well, sort of young teenagers, sort of 14, 15, 16, who I knew from elsewhere. And I said, well, come and try it. And I mean, one guy, he looked at me and said, you want me to do sumo? Come if I'm 15 and I weigh sort of 90 pounds. I can't do sumo. I said, well, in fact, you can, because they have weight classes and they have age classes. And you are just at the limit of the lightweight for your age. And I said, yes, you would be perfect at this. And he came along and they loved it.
Oh, that's awesome.
They loved it. And it went from there and it just sort of grew. Maximum we've been is about 15 to 20.
Yeah.
Never been sort of a massive group, but I don't want a massive group because sumo is sort of big family still.
It definitely is. And
Yeah.
I've noticed too, like with sumo, if you have kind of like a smaller group, you could kind of give people like, kind of the individual attention and coaching, that they need.
Yeah.
And especially whenever you're working with kids, so 'cause sometimes kids, I know when I was a kid, I wasn't very coordinated. I didn't really have a whole lot of good motor skills. So sometimes, kids might need a little bit of, just bend your back at this angle, get down a little bit lower, tuck your elbows in kind of thing.
I would say the two things I would say to a newbie in general are when you get into the position, you're not taking a poop. Okay. I have seen so many sort of 99.999% of the people who try sumo for this test time get into takiai and go into a poop in the forest.
The dog poop position.
Dog poop position, exactly.
I still see that. I'm like, it's like, well, you kind of want to prepare to spring yourself forward.
Lift your butt up a bit and don't put pressure on your wrists. And
But I try not to be that guy. I don't want to be critical or whatever. But sometimes I do just kind of snicker to myself. But that was
the other thing I would say to a newbie is grabbing the opponent's arms is useless. Because how many times have I seen newbies or beginners sort of come out of the takiai, grab the other guy's biceps, and just sort of shake their arms around and.
I don't know. I got caught in a couple of Sakui Nages that way. I'm like, oh, he's got my arm, whatever. That's useless. And then all of a sudden I'm on the floor looking up like, how did I get here?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that hand. It was what he was doing with the other hand that was important. Yeah. That's the two main sort of observations I would give to newbies.
Now that's solid though, especially the poop position. Don't do the poop position.
And even when you're not doing the poop position, there is a trick that I teach, and I can give this out. I mean, obviously, loads of folk know it, so it's not an absolute secret. I have seen a load of folk when they go into the takiai, they lean forward onto their hands. No.
Yeah, you don't want to put all your weight, on your wrist.
Yeah, because if you're putting some of your weight onto your fists before the takiai, when you get the takiai itself, you're literally going to have to move backwards to take the pressure off your fists, get back into balance on your legs before you can push forward. Mm-hmm. By the time you've done that, the other guy's in your face.
Oh, yeah.
I tell them, if that's the floor, and that's my wrist, I just tell them that when you're on the floor, you do that to make sure you're not got any pressure on it.
Just brush it.
Just brush it on the floor a couple of times to make sure you're not leaning too far forward and putting pressure on your fists. It's questions of sort of tenths of seconds.
Yeah.
In the sumo takiai, tenths of seconds is life and death.
Truly. Mm-hmm. Truly.
And in pro sumo, like those guys don't even like touch half the time when they're doing the tachiai. Like they'll just kind of throw their fist at the ground and then they'll start.
They'll bump fist the ground, sort of more or less. Yeah.
So speaking of newbies, you are in the U.S. right now. because of this event that's coming up in the Quad Cities. It is a Sumo Boot Camp.
Well, yes and no. In fact, I came over for a completely different reason.
Oh, my bad.
But the guys from the Midwest sumo area, when they learned that I was coming to Quad Cities, they said, "Oh, give us a boot camp! Give us a boot camp!"
Ooh.
Basically, it was Matt Shields' idea from Chicago.
Oh, awesome.
Love that guy.
And then I think there's a guy in from Grand Rapids who's coming down with some folk. And
Gabe Unick.
Gabe, yeah.
Unick. Yep.
And there's another guy who's sort of near Chicago, but I think he's injured, but he's coming down to watch. He's got a club. And then, of course, we got your colleagues from Grand Sumo Breakdown.
I love those guys.
Yeah.
Coming in
Good
from
guys.
Des Moines. Jake, this is a shout out for Jake from the competition. You have officially caught the sumo virus now that you've put a mawashi on. It is official. Do not fight it. It's deadly if you try to fight it. You will become depressed. Okay?
Just go with
And
it.
you will spend time looking at the diaper section in Walmart.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
Oh, man.
So I must say that Grand Rapids, their clay doyo was very impressive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it was hard, back-breaking work to get that thing done, too.
I saw the photos of it as it was being built, and I said, "Are they going to take the rocks off that?
That's exactly what I thought. Yes.
Or is this
It
sort
looked
of
like they got most of
sumo masochist sort of?"
Oh, I know.
So now,
And it came out right. I would just give one word of warning, and that is it looked too dusty. Because, normally they would make a hard surface in Japan, and then they would add sand and salt to it as a sort of slippery level. But the sand and salt will not mix into the clay. It will stay on the surface and just be your slippery level so that you can shuffle your feet.
Yeah.
But they won't actually count on sort of part of the dust from the top of the doyo as being the shuffled area. But it looked good, and it apparently, from what Matt was telling me, it was fun to refine on. There is a big part of sumo that is quite difficult to teach if you don't have a real doyo, though obviously a pool noodle doyo works well as well. Okay, is sort of all the work you do by sort of when you get to the side and you put one foot against the noodles and resist and sort of try and spin the other guy around you and working with that. And it's quite difficult to learn if you don't actually have the thing with you.
Yeah.
yeah, because we're using just a battle rope there at the Dallas Sumo Club, and you don't get that resistance that you do when you've actually got like a stable Tawara to kind of brace yourself against. That's true.
Yeah, even at some of the tournaments, where you have the more like regulation, federation kind of dojos, even those Tawaras, you could kind of feel them like there's a little bit of give
They're a
on
little
them.
loose.
Yeah, but they're pretty good. Here in Europe now, we have to have the plastic ones.
Yeah.
If there are under 16s fighting on them.
Mm-hmm.
Because of we have health insurance and accident insurance, okay, and in fact it's been a complaint of the accident insurance companies saying that kids that fall onto clay, it's too hard for them and they're getting injured or they risk injury. Probably what happened once was sort of one kid fell down somewhere in Europe and broke his arm or whatever, and all the insurance companies were going,
We don't want to pay for that.
Okay, and so they sort of passed laws that they would insure the kids, okay, but it has to be sort of tatami and plastic pool noodles, etc., etc.
What kind of things can people expect to learn at this sumo boot camp that you're doing in the Quad Cities?
Well, in fact, I'm going to be doing 2 lessons. One is from 11 till 1, and that's going to be literally a sumo one-on-one, 101.
So beginner.
Absolutely newbies. It's folk that sort of don't even know what a mawashi is, sort of level. For me, my sort of life philosophy that my mother has sort of knocked into my brain since an early age is if you want to do something, you have to do it good, have to do it well, and you have to do it completely. Sort of, you don't sort of mess around and sort of put it together with duct tape and
Don't half-ass, quadruple
yeah,
ass.
exactly. Yeah. And so what gets on my nerves a lot is seeing folk. Now, this is not just America, this is Europe, this is anywhere, who sort of don't know what they're doing.
Like sometimes, yeah, whenever you see after somebody wins, sometimes they forget to do the squat swipe kind of thing.
Yeah. And even that, I mean, in amateur sumo, the rule is when you squat swipe, you swipe towards the gyoji because it's the gyoji that's giving you the victory with his hand signal. And how many times have I seen folk swiping away from the gyoji?
Yes,
It's little details.
I didn't
It's
even know
simple.
that until just now. So
Yeah, I didn't know that.
now
either.
I'm
Well,
gonna.
it's logical because the symbol is he's giving you the victory by extending his hand towards you, and you are extending your hand to take the victory that you bring back
That makes sense.
yourself. But I mean, if he is on your right and he extends his hand, how can you go and get the victory by extending the left hand and sort of aiming for the other side of the dojo?
It's like you're just deflecting it.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like you're refusing it.
Yeah, that's kind of rude.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a complete sort of minor detail,
But the
But it's-
symbolism is
but
important.
the symbolism behind it is strong and needs to be known and needs to be done correctly. And so, obviously, Sumo 101 is going to be, well, all this sort of stuff, sort of, how do you do sumo correctly?
Yeah.
And we're going sort of, what do all the stuff that the gyoji say actually mean? And in what order you do it? Okay, he says Ray, and then you have to get in, and then he says Ray at the end before you go out. But what does Ray mean? Who's Ray? Ray is the Japanese for salute.
Yeah. And so that's kind of a thing that like I noticed that a lot of beginners and stuff aren't quite grasping is the order, you know, in which to do things and kind of, you know, I just translate, I guess, you know, the whatever the Gyoji's saying and whenever they're calling, you know, east side wins, west side wins, you know. And you know, of course the te wo tsuite and the matanash, you know. But figuring out yeah, try to tell people like
literally translated, it means the time has come. Please get into position.
yeah.
If you sort of block up when you're fighting and you're sort of just holding each other, and he will start shouting "nokata, nokata, nokata." It says "keep going" or "do something." So I think it translates better as "do something."
Don't
So
just
don't stand there. Yeah, exactly. Don't just stand there. Nokata.
Some people I've noticed in the US, and I'm sure in Europe and other places too, like don't even really care to try to find out what those terms mean. We're actually working on an episode right now that's going to be all about sumo terms and what they mean. It's going to be in a game show format because we want to make it fun. But
So you have the beginner.
And then again, obviously, it's going to incorporate all the actual physical movements.
Yeah.
When you've done the ray and you've sort of done one step inside, then you sort of squat down into a non-dog poop position.
yeah.
Okay, and you start swinging your arms around and clapping, and what's that sort of? Okay, and if you look at videos, even of sort of European sumo championships, and see, you'll see that they don't all do the same thing.
Yeah, but
That is normal. The ritual is your club signature. Basically, the two things that you have to show at some time, you have to once wash your hands, one sort of do a hand rub gesture. You have to do at least one clap hand to hand, and you have to lift your arms up to show your armpits. Okay, literally what you're showing is that you don't sort of have sand on your hands that you could fling into the other guy's eyes. You don't have sort of poisoned rings or stuff in your hands that you're going to poison the guy with, and you don't have sort of daggers or stuff stuffed up under your arm that you're going to stab him with.
Yeah.
Okay. So literally the whole gesture means I'm going to fight correct.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. But you can do sort of anything around it. You can hit your hands twice, you can rub your hands first, or you can hit your hands and then rub them, or you can lift your arms up between the hitting and the rubbing. Even among the professional, each hair has more or less their ritual.
That's awesome. I never noticed that.
Specialists have told me, I've not gone that far, but specialists have told me that you can tell which hair the folk are from by how they sort of rub their hands together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking out for that now.
I know, I am too. So the way that we got taught in Dallas Sumo Club was from Justin Kizert had kind of,
circle sumo.
Yeah, he taught Corey, the cherry choser, and he taught us. So ours is, like we do the hand washing, and then we do kind of like one soft clap and then one real clap before we put the arms up, And so it's kind of like, I don't know, we like if it's, between club members, it's almost like we got it down to like an exact science and we're like synchronized, when we do the cherry chozu. But I never realized that it was different, from stable to stable. That's awesome. That's another thing I'm just going to zero in on when I'm watching sumo.
Yeah.
Besides the more beginner stuff, though, is there going to be some more advanced technique that you're going to be teaching at the boot camp? Or
now, yes, there's going to be a second. Well, obviously, during the first, I'm going to be teaching sort of basic, sort of don't grab people's arms, sort of aim for your tits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Smash forehead to tits.
Smash foreheads to tits, yes. Don't grab sort of round his waist, go for the belt, okay. And I've seen folk doing the one where you hit a tree trunk. It's not
teppo.
Teppo,
yeah. But he was doing teppo sort of with his forearm, and his forearm was ending up between the tree trunk and his chest. And I wrote to him and he said, well, you're not going to be able to grab his mawashi like that. Keep your arms open, sort of.
Yeah.
You do teppo with your arms open. You don't do teppo with your forearm.
Yeah, it's like kind of like you have to strengthen like your arms and your shoulder, smash against the.
Anyway, that's another problem. That's basics for the 101. It's sort of, and it will end up with sort of having some fights, and they'll learn how to sort of shuffle across the dojo and etc. Then there's going to be about an hour's break. We're going to, if you want to come, there's sort of picnic time. And we can have a chat, sort of, Food is important for sumo.
Oh, yeah.
And then from 2 till about 4:30, they've been 2.5 hours for that one. There's going to be a sumo, well, not masterclass, but sort of an advanced class going. Well, if people who've done the 101 want to stay on, they can. I mean, they're more than welcome to. But it's going to be sort of going into advanced stages. Basically going from something that I was taught about 20 years ago by my sumo teacher, who said, the first rule in sumo is if you don't know what you're going to do at the takiai when you step onto the dojo, you've lost.
So kind of have an idea, like know your path to victory, visualize your path to victory when you get up there.
Yeah, at least what you have to know is your first movement. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can say, okay, I'm going to do a shove, I'm going to do a headbutt, I'm going to do a henko or whatever. Okay, what I think of henko is another problem.
Controversial issue.
But you have to know sort of, okay, when he says go, I'm going to do this. But that's not enough, because opposite you've got a guy who's going to do that, and you don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And so you have the sort of frightful millisecond where the takiai has finished and you are in contact with the other guy. Now what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to base a good part of it, at least I would say the first 3/4 of an hour to an hour, of doing takiai freeze. Okay, this is a technique I learned in Japan. What you do is you think of what you're going to do in your takiai. That's your problem. You get into position, you do the takiai, you get into contact, and then you both freeze. And then the prof will come over and you say, well, okay, he's holding that bit, he's holding that bit. That hand's there, that's useless. You should have done it somewhere else. That bit's okay, that bit's good, that bit is an obvious lead on a superiority sort of movement. And he will literally deconstruct the whole composition of how they are standing, how they are touching, how they are holding, and say, okay, well, now he has the superiority, so he would logically do this and sort of grab your shoulder or lift you up or get the mawashi or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. You, as the inferior position, how can you get out of it? How can you compensate for it? How can you stop him doing what the logical thing that comes next is, etc., etc.? And you literally sort of, it's based a bit on what is called the theory of games. You know what theory of games is? Where you literally study every possible scenario going from a given situation. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get the guys in pairs to do sort of just a takiai and freeze. And then with the others, we're just sort of going to walk around and say, okay, well, look, he's got his hand here on the mawashi. So he has this possibility to lift or to pull or whatever. But his other hand is completely sort of scrunched up against his chest. He can't do anything with it. What should he have done? Okay, really go down to the what we call in English the nitty gritty. I don't know if you say that in
we do.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get down to the nitty gritty and say, okay, what do you do now? What do you do now? What do you do now? They're going to do this probably because that's a sort of logical thing to do. Okay, how do you stop them? How do you counterattack? And go from that sort of situation for quite a bit.
I need to do that with my own training. That's a damn good idea.
It's like a detailed critique of the tachi that goes even further than that. Like, okay, now that you've done the tachi, what are you going to do next?
Yeah.
That sounds like it is going to be very valuable.
Yeah. Because I find a load of guys know what to do at tachi, but then are sort of, now what?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I got my hand on his washi. Okay, I'm going to pull it. But in the meantime, the other guy's got your leg and you're on the floor.
Yeah.
And you can't sort of, okay, we're going to do this exercise. Physically, you can't do it in a real fight because you don't have the time. Your brain doesn't work fast enough.
Exactly.
Sadly, okay, for you to sort of optimize the movement, sort of. But you learn some reflexes by doing this. For example, if he's trying to bring his second hand in to grab the mawashi, how do you, with your hand, how do you deflect it? You deflect it in and out, or do you deflect it down, or do you try and sort of hook his arm up and sort of hold him in so that he can't get his hand down onto your mawashi? Okay, but if you hold it in, but that means your hand's useless too. What do you do with this hand now?
So you could actually kind of slow down and start to kind of strategically weigh, what options you have, from that position. And it's kind of like if your brain knows if it's reviewed this information before, especially, kind of slower, when you're in the heat of battle, sometimes it's like those things will just kind of just come to you like, in a split second.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm going to have to, I really want to start doing that with Dallas. That's a really cool tool.
It comes from the theory of games where you sort of analyze all your options. You are in this position. Are you going to A, grab his mawashi, B, push his head, C, try and grab his arm, D, try and trip him, E, try and get out of the position? And then if you turn to C, okay, well, what does that bring? And et cetera, et cetera.
Oh,
it's really sort of taking a sumo fight sort of picture frame by picture frame and doing an analysis on it.
I love that.
It's a long process, and I can say for anybody who comes, it can be a bit tedious, but I can guarantee everybody I've taught this way to has come back to me and said it's immensely helped their sumo.
Nice.
Dang, now I wish we can go.
I know, right?
Is there going to be, are you guys going to be recording any of this and like posting it on YouTube or anything?
No doubt Jake from
I'm sure he will.
is going to do a load of videoing, yes.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch that. We need to know these secrets.
I know.
Well, they're not secret, it's just sort of logical.
Right.
It's like tactics.
You have to be logical, but you have to. I also practice Muay Thai, which is Thai boxing, which is completely different, which is sort of the extreme opposite. I mean, sumo, you have to be sort of heavy and well set and sort of into Muay Thai, you have to be sort of airy fairy and flying around. But they say to be able to do it well fast, you have to be able to do it well slowly.
Yeah, we're both musicians too, and we were actually just talking about that last night. When you're learning, like trying to play a new song on your instrument, you have to go slow before you can get
Yeah,
good
because
at
you have to
doing it
get the
fast.
notes into your head, and you have to say, well, okay, well, that's a quaver, that's a C, that's an F. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, and see, that's one thing that I think musicians do a lot too, that people in sumo do, is they want to just do it fast right from the get-go.
yeah,
And they don't allow themselves to take that time to do it slowly. They just
yeah,
want to automatically be good at it, you
yeah.
know?
And if you have, say, a couple of bars, a couple of bars in your music that you have trouble with, you're going to repeat those 2 bars 20, 50, 100 times until the muscle memory of your fingers and your mouth or whatever you're playing with is there and you can get it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So besides that, the Tachiai critique
Yeah.
and that whole thing, are there any other more advanced sorts of teaching techniques you're going to be using?
I'm going to be looking at going to do a bit of theory. I want to go further into than the 101 on sort of rules and regulations.
Mm. So no
Okay.
backflips on the doyo.
No backflips on the doyo. Yeah, no. Basically, the rule is no emotion in the circle.
Whether that's good emotion or bad emotion.
Good emotion or bad emotion. I said earlier about the little girl who sort of tried to cry on the doyo, and the coach looked at her.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah. But then sort of cried her eyes out when she got off the doyo.
Yeah. I remember seeing there was a YouTube video that Sumo Stu posted about sumo wrestlers crying, or at least trying not to cry, you know.
Yeah.
It was showed Toby Zaru had lost the Yusho to Shodai, and then like his face, it was just like he was just trying not to cry, but he was just scrunching. It was like I just wanted to hug him so bad. But it's interesting to see them, like, you know, they're feeling these outpourings of emotion, but they're just trying so hard not to.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
you just can't help it. It's like trying
Yeah.
to hold in a fart, you know? Sometimes you just gotta.
But I mean, one that you regularly see among pro sumo is not showing pain.
Mm-hmm.
If they've twisted something and they're sort of limping around the doyo, they will not be going, sort of putting faces.
That's what Matt does all the time.
I do. It's like, it hurts, and I just kind of wince. I don't even notice that I do
But-
it.
If he's got like the slightest bit of pain, or if he's got the sniffles or anything like that, everybody's gonna know about it.
Yeah, but that's one that you see often, sort of when they've hurt their knee or their ankle or something, they will not show it or try. Well, obviously, if they're sort of lying on the doyo and they can't get up and they need people to carry them off, that's another problem.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, even in my pain, I respect my opponent by giving him the win sort of attitude in the extreme sort of.
And they'll still make the effort, unless they're really injured, but they'll still make the effort to go and, you know, bow whenever
Yeah.
they're...
I mean, there was the famous case that came up that was very sort of viral polemique about the guy who got concussion.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and he looked like he'd had sort of 3 liters of whiskey.
No, he did. That was scary.
He was not there. He was sort of, but even then, he went up and he bowed. And then, I mean, then they carted him off to hospital, and he had real brain trauma.
Ooh.
One thing that I did also want to talk about is the Swiss Sumo Open.
Yeah.
So that's coming up as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, Swiss Sumo Open has been an old tradition. We've had them regularly. Unfortunately, because of COVID and other things like that, there haven't been any for a few years now. And I decided to redo one after I was nominated Swiss president, because our old president, Mr. Wahl, he unfortunately died in 2020.
Oh.
He didn't die of COVID. He had other problems. And obviously with COVID, sort of nobody was doing anything, so we didn't really bother about anything. And then I sort of said, well, let's get sumo on the road again and let's get a Swiss Open. And because of COVID, sort of everybody is sort of anxious to get back on the road, and there's not hundreds of tournaments going on. This has gone viral. I can quite honestly, it's going viral. I've got folk coming from all over the world, more or less.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I just to say, I had an email last night from Uzbekistan
Oh,
saying,
Nice.
is it too late to come?
Oh.
And I said, well, look, I can give you because they obviously need visas. And so I can send me your fighter info. I can make you an invitation letter that you can send to the embassy. I cannot, on such short notice, because I mean, it's less than a month now, guarantee that you're going to get your visas. He said, oh, yeah, I understand. I should have gone earlier, etc., etc. But I mean, I've got folk coming from India. I've got folk coming from Sri Lanka. I've got folk coming from Tajikistan. I've got folk coming from Egypt.
That's
man.
I've got, well, Switzerland, obviously, we've got a huge float.
Yeah.
France, Scotland, US. I've got loads of folk from the US. Who do you know from US? Well, I got guys from New York. I've got folk from North Carolina, South Carolina.
The North Carolina boys are going?
Yeah.
Raijin
Raijin
Sumo Club.
Sumo, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a Hungarian who lives with them.
Oh, yeah.
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Edinburgh.
That dude is a beast.
He is.
Yeah. But he's fighting for Hungary. He's fighting for
cool.
Hungary. He hasn't got an American passport, so I can't let him fight for America. So he's fighting for Hungary.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, that gives me an extra country. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Okay. And I got the Delator brothers coming from Los Angeles.
Nice.
I'm still waiting for Trent Sabo to tell me he's coming, but
What about we said New York. Do you know if Oscar Dolan and James, oh gosh, I can't remember.
No, it's Jake or James. It's Oscar and James. Yeah, Oscar and James. They are coming.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oscar's a pretty neat dude. He actually studies Japanese culture and history and stuff in university. So I'm interested to see how all of our U.S. guys do the Swiss Sumo Open.
Well, he seems pretty athletic, and he's a lightweight.
He's just
because in Europe we have a huge wrestling culture, sort of Greek Roman wrestling or free wrestling.
Yeah.
And obviously this has gone over into sumo. There are a huge amount of East Europeans who do both because they have a very large wrestling history, sort of Hungary, Poland, etc., etc. And you will see obviously all the heavy guys, sort of like me, who are sort of 200 kilos plus. Okay, we just sort of play at being I don't know, walruses on the beach, sort of.
I'm a walrus as well. It's okay.
Yeah, but the lightweight guys, you'll see they'll come in and they're dried up, they're muscular, they look sort of like what you would imagine an Olympic god to be look like, sort of. Except maybe Bacchus, who is the god of wine and good eating, but
well, we do have Caleb Bacchus down at Mighty Eagle Sumo Club, who does very much identify with that particular god.
But I mean, the lightweights and the middleweights, they will be much more sort of into wrestling, and you can see it in their sumo. They are not the guys that are go sort of hands out front and slap you.
Mm-hmm.
They are wanting to get onto that mawashi, and they are going to get heads down on your shoulder and sort of grapple you out.
I see a lot of them go for the leg too, that leg pick.
Yeah, but you wouldn't see two heavyweights do that.
It's definitely a different. It's almost kind of like almost a different
heavyweights
sport.
would be much more let's push, let's slap.
More of a power and strength game, but the lightweight's definitely more speed technique. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've often been asked what happens to the lightweight guys in open. Okay, and
Well, what happened to him?
I can tell you, I have seen an under 85 kilo guy win an open against a guy who was 240 kilo.
Oh.
And it's been recognized as what is officially called the suicide move. What he did, yeah, because it either works or he's dead, sort of.
Oh, wow.
What he did, at the takiai, the big guy was coming in low, obviously to sort of headbutt sort of this little guy out. And the little guy literally jumped into the air, did the splits in the air, so that the fat guy literally went underneath him, and he literally came down with both hands on the guy's shoulder blades and just slammed him into the ground.
Oh.
Wow.
That
And
is a power bomb.
he ended up sitting on the guy's back.
Oh my God.
And it's been called the suicide move because if the big guy's head had been 10 centimeters higher,
boom.
the little guy would be singing soprano.
I was about to say that's a headbutt to the crotch.
Wow.
That's a pretty badass move. You know,
And that was in European Championships. Ooh, about 2010.
Oh, I gotta look for that.
Damn.
But I could see that Edobor kid, doing that, because he's just that athletic. He's, know, man, he lifted up Trent Sabo into the air and just slammed him down. I was like, what? That was wild.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen people do that with Kelly Knighting, and Kelly Knighting is heavier than Trent.
Oh,
yeah.
Biamba, watching Biamba lift him up like that. I'm like, it gave me a hernia just watching it.
And they'd done the video trick where when Kelly comes down to the ground, the whole video trembles, sort of.
Oh. How many competitors are there that you know of so far?
Absolutely sure and certain now. I'm up to about 45. If everybody gets their visas, we're going to be about 80.
Nice.
Wow.
What's the largest tournament that you've ever done?
The largest tournament I've ever done is, in fact, the tournament that holds the world record. In August 2009, I was head of organization for the European Sumo Championships, which was an absolutely crazy event because it should have been organized by the Germans, who had 2 years to organize it. And in February of 2009, they said, well, sorry, we can't, because our sponsor is, I won't say the name, it's a big German automobile company who had a scandal because they were sort of mucking around with the electronics on their diesel engines. Yeah, okay, you see which one I mean?
Yep.
And they had sort of pulled out the financing for all the sponsoring. And so the sort of Germans said, well, we can't do it. And they called up this sort of emergency general meeting of all the sumo union, European Sumo Union. And I looked at Francois and I said, well, we can do it. I'll give it a try. And Francois said, well, we haven't got any sponsors. And I said, you don't need sponsors, you need hard work. And I literally spent from February till August doing everything.
Oh.
I don't want to sort of throw halos at myself, but sort of. But I mean, we had meetings with the town council and stuff, and they said, well, who's doing that? I am. Who's doing this? I am. When you're sleeping, sort of. Yeah, and okay, it wasn't perfect. But it still holds the record 13 years later of being the largest gathering of sumo wrestlers outside of Japan in history.
Wow. That's badass.
Yeah, and it was a 3-day competition. How many people do you think we had?
I want to say
200?
I was about to say 200.
436.
Whoa! That's awesome.
That is gnarly, dude.
That's a lot of sumo wrestlers.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for whoever had to feed them all.
Man, I want to be at that after tournament party. That must have been the wildest shit.
That would have been a really badass party.
Seeing how it was after the Consulates Cup, man, sumo wrestlers party hard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we partied on raclette, which is a typical Swiss dish. It's pretty easy. It's just sort of melted cheese and potatoes. But
Nice.
That sounds right up my alley.
Yeah.
yeah, it also involves a large amount of white wine. I drew up the plans of how to build the doyo, basically with wood and with tatami and super glue. And a lot of nails and screws and stuff. But yeah, and it worked. And they still, in fact, the European Union still uses my plans to build the doyo every year for European Championships.
Awesome.
Nice.
Because the Europeans before that would do it on clay. But the Swiss insurance guys were saying, whoa, no way are you doing clay for kids. Okay. And so I had to invent from scratch this doyo that was tatami covered, but even tatami covered on the sides and on the steps.
Oh. Yeah, that would be kind of challenging.
Yeah. That's where the super glue came in. Because this was the first year. This may be why we had so many extra people, because it was the first year that they had the Europeans for under 14s.
Oh, nice.
They had under 16 and under 18, but this was the first year that they had the under 14s as well.
That's a lot of people. So it's not just a lot of adult sumo wrestlers, but a lot of kids too.
Yeah, because we had under 14, under 16, under 18 adults, both men and women. Then all the team competitions.
Ooh.
But even the under 14, under 16, under 18s had team competitions too.
Wow.
Nice.
There was we did a competition of how much would the entire group of athletes on the podium of the men's team event weigh.
That's a good thing to ponder, actually. Now I'm thinking of all of the winners of the recent tournaments.
Because obviously we had all the weights from the weigh-ins, even the heavyweights weighed in. And so we knew who were the people on the podium, and we just sort of added up their weights. And this was how much the people had to guess. In kilos, obviously. In
kilos, yeah, I was about to say, I would say 650.
650 kilo?
Maybe.
3,124 kilos.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just talking about like 3 people.
No, it's 4 groups of 4.
Oh, 4 groups of 4. Okay, yeah. And so it was 3,000.
It worked out at not quite 200 kilos on average per person.
That's a lot of meat.
Man, that's the kind of like sports betting that you could do that would not be
like on the sport itself.
Exactly. Like, okay, I'm gonna put money on this weight for bronze, silver, and gold for this competition, and then you're gonna put money on whatever you think the weight's gonna be, and then whoever's closest wins the pot.
Man, that's wild.
But yeah, we have talked a lot about amateur sumo, which is awesome. There needs to be more talk about amateur sumo. Yeah. But our last question actually has to do with pro sumo or grand sumo.
Okay.
Who are your favorite rikishi in pro sumo and why?
Ever?
It could be ever. Yeah.
Or some of your least favorite.
I think, now this is chauvinistic, I think 2 that I have really liked were Baruto and Kotooshu. Because they're European.
Yeah. No, I've noticed that even the Americans seem to go more for like Tochinoshin and people like that. So yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. Why do I like those 2 particularly? Because they are the only 2 pro sumo fighters that I have personally met and had a time to talk with.
Really?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. The 2008 World Championships were in Rakvere in Estonia, which is Baruto's hometown. And his brother, in fact, is the head of the Rakvere Sumo Club.
Oh, that's badass.
And Baruto came over for the World Championships as sort of a VIP, hi, say hello to me, sort of, and everybody was taking selfies with him. And I got to talk with him, and he is a very interesting guy, and he is very cultured and very knowledgeable about a lot of subjects, and
Nice.
not just sumo and
Awesome.
Japanese culture. And I loved him as well because he's obviously easy to watch because he was the blonde one.
Yeah.
A gentleman and a scholar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, seriously, because I mean, you sort of think of sumos as thick brutes, and they're not.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at guys like
Uh,
Ikioi. Like, Ikioi's got that voice like silk, you
Yeah.
know?
And Kotoshu is Bulgarian, and he just impressed me because he physically didn't look like a sumo. He looks like a body. Well, he did. He's stopped now. He's retired, but he looked like a bodybuilder.
Yeah, he's cut.
I've seen seen photos of Kotoshu doing takiai, and sort of his back. You could sort of use it for an anatomy lesson. Sort of, this is this muscle, and that's that muscle, and that's that muscle. Sort of, you could use it for that, and it would be sort of whoa.
Yeah, it's
And they are so maybe not typical sumo, and maybe that's why I like them.
yeah, Koto Oshu he was just badass in his heyday, you know. I remember like
Oh, yeah.
watching some of those videos, and even now, since he's like, you know, Naruto yeah, Koto Oshu's is he Naruto coach Naruto now? I thought he was. I thought anyway.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's his Oyakata name or whatever. But still, seeing him like in the Oyakata position, you know, he was still doing Butsukari, you know, like with his wrestlers, and he's still built.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, dude.
Yeah, but he's also a fun guy to be around. He's pleasant.
That's so
He's
cool.
not. He is not sort of. I mean, I've seen some sort of. Obviously, you take the extreme Asasorio, okay, who are sort of. They have an attitude.
Exactly.
It's sort of. They come into the room and they have the sort of "I'm here now, we can start" attitude, sort of.
Kind of an arrogance.
Sort of like the Queen used to have, sort of.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Used to.
Yeah. Okay. It's sort of, what are you talking about if it's not about me, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, on one side, okay, his sumo were absolutely beautiful to watch. He had some moves that were sort of out of where did you get that sort of. But his personality,
Just
no.
horrible.
Yeah, he was sort of so superior, and it showed, and it was sort of not nice.
Yeah, it's kind of a turn off when you meet someone that's just that full of themselves, you know.
That's something that I wonder about Hoshoryu too. Is he going to end up having that same kind of personality? Because he has tried to distance himself from his uncle a little bit, you know.
Yeah,
Is he gonna be like really cool and chill, or is he gonna be an asshole like Asashoryu?
From what I can tell, he's just like he's super chill, and when you see him in interviews and stuff, he's like all
his little
smiley,
glasses.
and he's just
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only time that I ever see him looking like mean is whenever he's like at the side of the dojo before it's like, you know, his turn to go fight.
Yeah, but I mean that's just hype. That's just psyching.
Yeah, you got to
yourself
get
up.
yourself psyched up. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the other great Hakuo, okay, he's not like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have as much right in what he has done for the sport in the few last years as to be like that, but he's not.
Yeah.
He's definitely got personality.
He has
But he's not
personality. But
arrogant.
I mean, when you see that sort of one of the major things he's done is organize the Hakuo Cup for the
Yeah.
kids. I mean, that is just sort of whoa. Who thought that the pro sumo would sort of go down and sort of? I've read reports. I'm friends with John Trail, who is Australia Sumo president, and he's been telling me a couple of times about when he took kids over to the Hakuo Cup from Australia. And I mean, these are sort of skinny kids that sort of blonde, white, and sort of need more sunshine sort of kids.
Yeah.
They sort of look really out of place in a mawashi, but as I said before, they go at it with all their heart and they do it and they enjoy it. And Hakuo has been able to use some of his sort of fame and cash and whatever to to get these kids over there and to be able to get the kids to participate. And I think that's just beautiful.
And it seems like he's pretty dedicated to bringing the sport more into the modern era.
Yeah.
You know, like starting new traditions within Grand Sumo and kind of shaking things up a little bit. Not everybody's happy with that, but some of the stuff I think really is necessary, like his commitment to bringing more sports medicine into sumo and stuff like that.
Kisei Sato, I heard a couple of years ago, I don't know if he's implemented it yet, but he said he was actually going to start serving breakfast in his stable, or at least have breakfast available to those who wanted to eat breakfast.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, because traditionally you don't eat before you train in the morning.
Yeah.
Except for maybe a glass of water. And
Sometimes...
if you like me, when we went over, it was a glass of water and 2 painkillers. But
yeah.
I can tell from experience. In 2005, I went over for the World Championships with the Swiss team to Osaka, and we spent 2 weeks training intensive with the Kinki University team, which is a sort of sport and study or music and study university. And we were staying with them they have a heya for the sort of university heya where they live together. We were staying with them sort of 24/7. When we trained with them, they would sort of traditionally not eat much before. It would be just sort of water, at least a glass of water. And they were usually chugging things like Powerade, Gatorade, or they were taking dextrose pills, dextrose tablets, sort of very fast sugars.
Yeah.
Because, okay, your banana takes more or less 2 hours to digest.
Yeah. But those dextrose pills...
Your banana would be better. In fact, this is a sports person talking. A banana would be better afterwards to get your magnesium and potassium back up.
That's a good point.
To avoid cramps and avoid muscle pain. Go for the fast sugars before. If you want to have... One thing that when I went to sports management studies that they recommended is something that they use a lot in ice hockey, which is a mixture of 20% pure apple juice and 80% water.
That's not a bad idea.
And that will keep you hydrated, but the 20% apple juice will keep your sugar level up and it will keep your electrolytes up.
That's a good idea.
So, besides what we've already discussed, is there anybody else in pro sumo who you either really love or really don't like at all?
One guy, well, who's finished. I'm trying desperately, since you asked me the question, to remember his name because he's got an extremely complicated name that has about 20 syllables in it. He's the little one with the very thick glasses who used to slap his face. What was his name? Taki
Misakari.
Taki Mikasari, yes.
The one that would kind of have the really...
he was really boisterous and but he wasn't the best. He wasn't by far the worst, but he was fun to watch.
Definitely.
He brought another side to sumo that is not the most commonly seen, which is sort of, well, I suppose he did take sumo seriously, but it was sort of not always that serious. You see what I mean? It was sort of, he brought something, it wasn't sort of, okay, I'm going in, I'm going to do the ritual, I'm going on there, I'm going to win or lose, and I'm coming off, and that's it.
It's like a bit of levity, kind of.
Yeah, the public sort of loved him. Every day when he was fighting, they would be cheering him, he had sort of a persona. That's the sort of thing I like. It's something that sort of, they go beyond the necessary and sort of give you a bit more.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think of like Ura.
Yeah, Ura is very much like that because he goes through the motions and the ceremony of sumo correctly, but he still kind of has his own little flair to it. Like whenever he lands into the audience, he bows to everyone and he's still always really smiling.
Or the little flourish that he did during the...
He's still respectful. He still has the moves and the jests and the rituals perfectly off. But there's sort of a little bit more.
Yeah,
Exactly. Well, thank
Hey.
you so much, Richard, for joining us today. It has been so much fun talking
yeah.
to you.
We're usually not used to waking up this early on a Saturday, but you are so worth it. Just
Oh,
so
yeah.
awesome talking to you.
We definitely hope that you have like a lot of fun at your Sumo Boot Camp, and tell everybody there in the Quad Cities that the Sumo Punx say hi.
Will do.
Make those GSB boys take you to someplace good to eat.
Yeah, definitely do
Oh
that.
yeah. And in fact, very possibly this is an exclusive because it's recent decisions. I've been talking with Matt from Chicago and with Jake.
Mhm.
Well, I get mixed up between Jake and James from New York because
Yeah.
yeah. But they're staying on for the evening and for the night in Quad Cities, and we're spending most of the day on the Sunday talking about technical aspects of teaching sumo, how to become a sumo teacher, and also how to sort of do the official paperwork and stuff and get folks in to do sumo in the goal of founding a sumo club.
That is a running series that we have on this podcast, actually, is
Yeah.
we interview the founders of the different sumo clubs
Yeah.
here in the US and ask them, well, how did you do it? And the hope
Yeah.
is that it inspires other people to do it.
Well, I can give you an exclusive. He's not going to like me for this and he'll probably hit me. There is a very large percentage chance that there will soon be a Des Moines Sumo Club.
I kind of figured that was going to happen. It's not that big of a secret.
I'm just glad to see those Midwest boys, starting to really kind of like group
Yeah.
together and make some stuff.
I think they're jealous of sort of the folk from around the outside because California's got a load, you've got a load down the south, Florida's got a load of people, and they just sort of wanted to get in on the game and sort of.
I'm glad that they are. I'm just glad sumo's just booming in the States right now. It's great.
Okay, well, there you go. Is that enough stuff for a podcast?
That's
perfect.
Perfect about for
Absolutely
podcast.
perfect. And again, thank you so much. I know the jet lag and everything is a pain in the ass, but you've been absolutely fabulous, and we can't wait to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Sure,
But we got to go eat lunch now, so.
Yeah. Me too. Have fun. Enjoy your meal.
You too.
You too.
Bye. Oh my god, I had so much fun talking to Richard. I almost didn't care that I had to wake up early to do it. Almost.
But honestly, it was so much fun to talk to Richard Neal. I mean, I had all of the coffee that I needed to get going. I just chugged coffee and I was all right.
If you're still listening by this point and you are super interested in going to that Sumo Boot Camp, it's going to be in the Quad Cities area on October 15th.
Yeah.
Then if you need any information about how to get there or anything else, go ahead and message us. Message
Grand Sumo Breakdown.
Grand Sumo Breakdown.
Yeah.
Jake's going to be there.
Oh, hell yeah, he's going to be there.
Yeah, but yeah, you can message us, you can message them, you can message the Midwest Martial Arts Group. Either way, try to make it out. I'm sure it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Oh, hell yeah.
But that's our show. If you're still listening by this point, I know it's been pretty long, but please throw us a 5-star rating on whatever podcast platform you are currently listening. It really does help us out. And also, we just like to see all those stars.
Hell yeah.
If you want to send us a message, you can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We even have a Discord. I'm not quite sure what to do with it yet. We are still working on that. But fuck it. Come check it out. Yeah. We do also have a Redbubble shop where you can get t-shirts, mugs, stickers, mouse pads, douches. Maybe not the douches. With Sumo Punx stuff plastered all over it. Or just general cool-ass sumo stuff on it.
Yeah. All right, but thank you guys for listening. Come back again. We're going to have a gaggle of shit coming up for the winter time, so keep an ear out.
Yeah, and thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.